I think that is a skill. No matter which industry you go to, you need to know how to deal with people.
A lot of my friends, a lot of close people that were close to me were like, buddy, this is the time to shoot more content. It's
Not
just in
every
general,
airline does
it's
the
a
same
regular
standards of
question, yeah.
training.
You can have that person with the employer mindset and your team becomes the employee mindset.
Learn good habits. When you're traveling to another country, apply the same habits.
Rizwan bhai, thank you for coming in. Pilot instructor at airline aviation for the past 9 years.
Airways aviation, sorry.
Airways aviation, sorry. I thought we'll just cut that, yeah.
Yeah, okay. We'll start again.
Okay.
Or I think it's funny actually. That'll actually
Okay,
stick.
done,
whatever
sounds
you
good,
guys
sounds good.
think. Okay.
You run and manage 7 locations.
So I work as a pilot instructor
Uh-huh.
in a global pilot training academy. That's right, Airways Aviation. And I have a few different roles. I'm the pilot instructor, but I'm also managing certain other departments, admissions, Airways Aviation licensee manager. So I've been doing a few of this, few of
Amazing.
that. Yeah.
So 9 years that. When did you come into Dubai?
So I came to the UAE 2011, right
Okay.
after completing my pilot training in US.
Mm-hmm.
And and then it's been more than a decade now, and I'm just enjoying living and working in the UAE. And I was based in Montenegro. I was based in different locations of our academy, but Dubai is home.
Awesome. I love when I hear that. What did you do before that?
So before I joined the academy 9 years ago, I had a very unconventional start. I completed my pilot training, and then the global recession was going on, 2009 and 10. So the aviation industry was a little bit slow. So I had to start somewhere. I started working in a tire shop in Abu Dhabi. Yeah,
Tire shop in Abu Dhabi.
With a pilot license in my pocket.
Wow. Okay.
I was supposed to be the manager of the tire shop, again, but in a tire shop.
Right.
You can call yourself the manager, but at the end of the day, you are
Not in
servicing
a
the
tire,
clients.
not in a tire shop.
Exactly.
Yeah,
No
yeah.
matter what your title is, you're still installing tires. You're helping the technicians. You're installing batteries, getting some punctures done, whatever it takes to get those customers out of the shop. So I did that for quite some time until the academy invited me for an interview, and it's been 9 years now with this academy.
Wow. From tire shop guy to making sure thousands and hundreds of thousands of people fly safely across the globe from this hot city called Dubai.
Yeah, Dubai has given me a lot. I'm ever grateful to this amazing city. I think it showed me how life can throw a curveball, but you need to be patient, passionate, and persistent. I think these are the 3 P's for success.
And these are the 3 P's where 90% of the population lacks.
I believe so, yes. I think as long as you can follow these 3 P's, my instructor, when I was doing my pilot training, he told me, Rizwan, if you want to be a successful pilot, but I think I would apply this to every other career,
Industry,
every
yeah.
other industry. You want to be successful in anything, as long as you're passionate, persistent, and patient.
Yeah,
I
like
think it's possible.
passion without persistence and patience doesn't do anything. Same way with, having patience and not having passion or persistence is useless.
Makes total sense.
And you could be persistent, but not interested in what you're doing, then what's the point of doing it?
Exactly.
So all these things pile up together to do what it does. And a lot of people I know in your position would have probably gone into depression because you did all that effort. You got a
True.
pilot training license
True.
from the US
True.
and you were fucking changing tires.
Yeah.
God damn.
Yep. I'm not going to lie. Yes, there have been a few days.
Like my hair is standing.
No, but when I think about it, I have to be honest. Yes, there have been a few days where I would be a bit depressed. It's human. I mean, it's human nature. It's completely
No
fine.
one can function
Exactly.
full power 24/7, 8 days in a week.
Sure.
It's impossible.
Sure. There were some low moments, and I would start questioning what I did. How did I land in this position? But yes, you don't let it completely overtake your whole day. Yes, you might have a few moments every other day, but suppress those. Think about the positives. Keep looking at all the other great opportunities you have around you. Think of all the other things I was learning. I mean, today when I think about it, those 2 years working in that tire shop, I was able to learn Arabic, which I used during my so many other
Oh,
parts
that's
of my
amazing.
job, in
Okay.
my other job. So what I'm trying to tell you is, if you're in a job which you feel is below you or beneath you, there's nothing like that. No job is beneath you, because God wants you to learn something from that job which you will use in your next. So I think I was able to learn how to deal with people. I learned how to deal with arrogant customers. I dealt with a lot of those. So I think that gave me a lot of information on what to do in life.
Especially in the heat in those shops. I have been there a few times to
Yeah.
change my tires, and I
Yeah.
feel bad for the condition that they have to work in, but this is what it demands, and this is what it
Definitely.
is. And
I think that's, again, it humbles you. You know, you
For
start
sure.
valuing human life. You start
For sure.
valuing everyone who's below you. You look at those people who are doing these type of, service and jobs, 24/7 type industries, and you start realizing that,
And
what
I
they
know
do is important.
we all walk in with like, boss, 10 minutes, swap my tire, give me a new piece, let me get out.
Yep.
And I know I've been there myself. I've probably done it myself too. I'm sure of that. Later on, I feel bad, but I put that guy through it, and
Yeah.
I cannot imagine.
Sure.
Wow, okay, that's different.
I think I should cover up another topic since we're talking
Please.
about this.
Please.
There used to be some customers who would intentionally or unintentionally, maybe they were not, maybe they're not aware, they would hit the side curbstone and the tires would damage themselves, right? So this is not the manufacturing defect. And we would have customers who would be like arguing, saying, this is a company manufacturing defect. I'm like, I can clearly see the damage. Your rims are scratched.
Your rims are busted, yeah.
You had an accident. This is not under warranty. You told me it's 6 months warranty. Yes, for manufacturing defects. So the point here is, I was doing something I thought I would never find any use in my aviation career. But guess what? I was trained how to deal with people. That's an important skill. I think that is a skill. No matter which industry you go to, you need to know how to deal with people. A person might be arrogant in front of you. He might be angry, but how do you deal with him patiently? This is a skill you cannot study in a book.
You can't study in a book. You can't watch no YouTube video, no courses. And it's similar even with your industry, right? The aviation industry. You could, like, after you explained it to me when I was there in person, you're like, bhai, we can show them all the videos they want to see. We can make them visualize what it's going to be like. But unless and until they don't sit in that aircraft, which is shaking like it's about to tear down, they'd never know what to do next.
Exactly. I mean, when you were in one of those full motion simulators, the private jet
loved it.
simulators,
Thank you for that.
you remember how that could have never been taught on a PowerPoint presentation. Imagine me standing in my classroom in front of a PPT saying, checkpoint 1, 2, 3, 4. But then that's it. It's just rote memory.
Half of them are probably yawning.
Exactly. And imagine now what we're doing is the realistic and the immersive experience, as we call it, the reality-based training, where we put you in that situation, shake things up a little bit, and that's the right way of training.
And I also like that you had various rooms where you made me hop out of an aircraft's emergency little window, which I don't know how I fit through, but I did. That is not something that you can learn off a video.
Sure,
man.
sure. So I mean, as pilot training candidates or as cabin crew or anyone who wants to be around aircrafts, you need to know how to survive. You need to know how to help others. If God forbid there's a situation where you have to evacuate an aircraft, you need to follow the certain procedures. And following the procedures, knowing the procedures is easy, but executing it, doing it in less than a couple of minutes, it can only be done when you have practiced for
And
it.
it's not a casual situation that you're in at that
true.
moment.
It's true.
Either your tail's on fire or you've probably come down into the snow or something like you did in the other room or the jungle room or whatever it was. Those are actual life situations. And on top of everything, your heart is pumping at, I don't know, 1,000 beats a minute.
Yes, 100%.
If that's even possible, but yeah.
What also happens is you're stressed out and you're not making right decisions. I mean, I'll tell you about some of my incidences when I was doing my pilot training as a student. I remember some incidences where I completely saw something which didn't exist. For example, there are these light gun signals. When a pilot is coming in for a landing, and let's imagine that his radio failure, he's having a complete radio failure. Radios are completely shut down. No one can hear him, and he cannot hear anybody, complete radio failure. There are light gun signals. And this happened with me once when I was doing my pilot training. I was completely alone in the plane. It's a well-logged experience I've had. and I was supposed to follow light gun signals.
Mm-hmm.
And the tower gives you red and white, red and green flashing lights and so on.
Okay.
Now, I remember seeing orange, and I was just like, what? And I'm like,
Am I
No-
supposed
nobody-
to slow down?
nobody told me anything about orange. It was only supposed to be certain colors. I made another extra round, waiting for the right light signals. And the second time I made a circle around, came back towards the tower, I actually saw the green, flashing green. And I landed. A few hours later, when I was talking to my instructor, I said, wait, I actually saw orange. And he was like, how's your brain messing with you? There are no orange lights in the tower.
You're kidding me.
The point here is that
And you were in an actual aircraft?
I was in an actual aircraft,
You were
completely
flying it.
alone, and there was a radio failure.
Oh, shit.
And I was looking at it, so I was so stressed out that I probably saw green, but my brain told me it was orange. And I was like, did I see orange? I saw orange. But the point is, sometimes when you're stressed out,
Yeah, no shit.
exactly, so only if you train for it. So in our pilot training program, obviously we will do the same emergency procedures again and again and again until the student just completely feels normal about it.
It's
So
casual.
Exactly. So when we shut down the engines
Ooh.
and just start approaching, and the instructor tells you, let's imagine this is a real engine failure, and tuck, 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 he shuts down the propeller completely. The first time, yes, you're completely
Yeah, no shit.
you know,
It's gonna
you're shitting
freak
yourself,
out.
right? So sorry for my language, but yeah, you're completely scared.
Nah, feel free to speak, man. Don't worry
But-
about it.
After a few attempts, it becomes completely normal.
God damn.
So the whole point of training is we don't just do regular training, go straight, approach, take off. No, we're practicing all kinds of emergencies.
Yeah, you made me experience a part of it where the entire private jet that we were in was about to break into pieces.
We can actually take it up quite a
More than
Yeah,
that?
yeah, yeah.
Holy
We were
shit.
being nice with you. We did basic turbulence and basic stuff. We can do crazy turbulence
Wow.
and some thunderstorms and a lot of crazy stuff.
Right. I'm curious, when was that facility set up, the
So-
Airways Aviation?
So the facility you came to in the DWC Al Maktoum Airport, the Dubai South facility, that was set up in around July of 2020. So it was literally
Oh, that's the point I wanted
Yeah.
to touch. God damn.
yeah. So obviously they started building it and they started working on it in 2018.
Wow,
and
it took
was
2
supposed
years.
Sure. And it was supposed to start in 2020, scheduled. So we started as per the schedule, but we had no idea that in March or in Feb of 2020, the
Shit's gonna
pandemic
hit the fan.
Yeah, exactly.
Holy
But
shit.
we started anyways. Sure, the 2020 was slow. 2021 was a little bit slow, but now, as you know, the aviation industry is back up and running. We're conducting pilot training, cabin crew, aircraft maintenance, ground handling. We offer many different courses. But anyways, the point is that aviation industry is booming like never before. So
Interesting. How slow is slow in 2020?
2020 was a crazy time. Most of the airlines,
So nobody was sending people for training?
no,
I
obviously.
know there were some aircrafts flying
There
here
was
and there.
Some
A lot of
training
privates were
happening.
flying too.
So the good thing is some of our locations, for example, during the pandemic, I was based in Montenegro. So I was at the Airways Aviation Montenegro Academy. So I was thrown around in different branches of our academy. So I work as an instructor,
Right.
admissions, and a few other things. So
Right.
they would sometimes place me,
You're the go-to guy.
something like that. So they would throw me into the Airways Aviation branch in the UK for a while if there were any important tasks to be taken care of. I was in Airways Aviation Academy in Spain for a while, but I spent majority of my time in Airways Aviation Academy in Montenegro, one of the most beautiful places in Europe.
Oh yeah, I've been dying to go.
I spent almost 3 years. My wife and I actually thought we'll have kids and we'll just, stay in
You
Montenegro.
fell in love, basically.
Oh yeah, I fell in love with Montenegro. So I was in Montenegro for 3 years, and the whole of the 2020, I was stuck in Montenegro. But I think I was very happy. We did not have the crazy pandemic like the rest of the Europe. We hardly had any cases in 2020 until I think September. September
Wow.
2020 is when the cases started
Oh.
exploding in Montenegro. So we actually had a very relaxed time. We actually kind of felt bad. Like it was June and July of 2020 and we were relatively in
Wow.
a safer place compared to the rest of Europe.
But the entire world was shut down by that
Yeah,
before
yeah.
that.
So back to your question, we were doing a lot of pilot training,
Mhm.
right? So our pilot training classes and schedules kept moving forward all the way till August, September of 2020 in Montenegro branch. But some of our other branches, training had to be completely shut.
Mm.
France and UK, and most of the locations were completely shut. So yeah, it was quite a difficult time. Our academy in Australia was running much smoother until the end of 2020 as well. So depending on the location, we had very different training scenario. But let's go back to the main, from a revenue point of view.
Mm.
All the airlines had stopped operations. We had a lot of airline customers who were no longer sending students. Students themselves who wanted to join were a little bit scared. What's going to happen with the pandemic? 2020 created a lot of bad PR for the aviation industry. I remember because I was working in the admissions, a lot of student pilots would come and say, "Sir, pilots are being laid off left and right. Maybe there's no scope. Maybe we shouldn't become pilots." But I was like telling a lot of people. I even made a lot of articles on my LinkedIn, which to this day exist, from the June and September of 2020, saying, "Guys, do not stop doing pilot training because this is a temporary blockage. Your pilot training takes 2 years. By the time you complete your pilot training, the pandemic is going to be long gone, and there's going to be a crazy pilot shortage." And everybody would make fun of me, and I would get ridiculous comments in 2020, 2021 when I would write these articles on my
Always
LinkedIn
happens,
and so
yeah.
on, right? Look at today, the last 6 months, we are experiencing an unprecedented pilot shortage. The whole aviation industry, every airline is
Really? Yeah?
looking for airline
Wow.
pilots, cabin crews, and we are now looking at 300% demand over the next 5 years in the aviation industry. So this is also because of how during the pandemic a lot of people ended up believing those negative PR media.
Yeah,
And
I know. But I mean, you
know.
can't blame them, right? I know a lot of industry people were in the similar situation. I myself probably didn't stop working, but I slowed down the whole content game at that time because I was like, okay, you know what? Even I want to test the waters. I want to see
Sure.
what's going on.
Sure.
But a lot of my friends, a lot of close people that were close to me, including Asad, were like, buddy, this is the time to shoot more content.
Exactly.
My bankers were like, bro, this is the time to pump in more money into
I
your
agree
stocks
with
and
you.
bonds. And I was like, yeah.
That's the difference. People who had that vision and knew that the markets are going to recover, it's not going to go down the hill. It will recover.
For sure.
So that's exactly what happened in your real estate industry as well.
Yeah.
Yes, 2020 and 2021 was probably a bit slower compared to most of the years, but we're now looking at real estate. I'm not an expert in this industry, but from what I can see, from what I can understand from your amazing Instagram page, the industry is booming.
It's doing all right.
It's
Yeah,
like
it's doing
never
good.
before.
True.
I've never
True.
heard of Dubai real estate being at this level in the last 20 years. It's only improving.
I think it's been repeated many times, but I'll say it anyways. The main reason was the way Dubai handled the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is the biggest driving force today.
Mm-hmm.
We only had a lockdown for 1 month,
Amazing,
which
right?
was 24 hours.
That's just
And
amazing.
another month, I think we had a curfew till about 8 or 9 p.m. in the evening, so we could roam around freely during the day. And then just make it a point to get back home on time because the alarm would start ringing.
I think that's a very good, valid point you've raised. I think hats off to the leaders and the visionary
course.
leaders of the UAE.
Of
They did a pretty
course.
good job because I was stuck in Europe and I was looking at the situation in Europe. Compared to that, I think Dubai did 100 times better.
Like I'm saying, man, the second they opened the doors, everything that could fly had people sitting in it was in Dubai. From
Agreed.
across everywhere.
Agreed.
Multi-millionaires, billionaires, you name it, you know them, you don't know them, they were all here. Because they were like, you know what? These guys did a phenomenal job. My wife was a volunteer for the Dubai ambulance,
Amazing.
and she used to go at night, 11, 12 o'clock at night, and come back at 7 o'clock in the morning. She's like, in one night, we'd have so many volunteers that we'd set up a 400-bed hospital
Wow.
in that night.
Wow.
A 400-bed field hospital is not a joke, bro.
It's amazing.
Beds, equipment, electricians, this, that, I don't know, you name it, everything was set up. She's like, every night we used to go and set up like 200 rooms, 300 rooms, various locations, entire team spread out, the works. And I was amazed
It's amazing.
how they did that. And so many people stepped forward, even though knowing that this is dangerous.
This might sound to people that, oh, because we live in Dubai, we love our country, it's natural. I've actually traveled and I've lived in many different parts of the world. I've lived in Europe, UK, Spain, Montenegro. I've done my training in the US. I've been to the US several times in the last few years. I lived there for 3 years back in the 2009, 10, 11. And I'm telling you, I mean, there's something about this city. There's something about
For
this
sure.
country.
For sure.
I can't express it, but it's not just because we live here. Everybody tells me, oh, because You live there, you like it. No, not really. Try, as the reel says, Habibi, come to Dubai, check it out, and you'll actually be surprised. The safety, just the peace of mind, something very unique.
I know it's not exactly what you're saying, but I do agree with what you're saying. The other day, I had a random broker call me up. And kind of a similar situation, I feel. And he was like, bro, so what do I do? As usual, I gave him the 3, 4 pointers that I strongly believe in. I was like, you know what, just do it. And people around me were like, why are you giving him tips? I'm like, I don't care. But what happened after was shocked me a bit. And he's like, oh, so all your leads come through Instagram and TikTok. I'm like, most of them, and some from YouTube. Oh, but that's easy for you to say. You have 130,000 followers, so it's cool. I'm like, buddy, today you have 200 followers. 3.5 years ago, I was there as well.
It all started at zero, right?
Exactly.
We all started at zero.
Oh, ha ha ha, yeah. I said, yeah, put in the grind, you'll probably cross me.
Exactly.
Right? It's easy for someone to say that, oh, because you're living there, that's why you're praising it.
Yeah, but we didn't start our page with 100,000 plus.
I didn't get the passport over here.
Exactly.
It's okay. I'm fine with that. I don't want the passport. If they don't want to give it, it's okay. Maybe they'll do it in the next decade. But I know Dubai will probably do something like that because they want to retain the people that have been here for years.
I mean, I think they've done amazingly. The Golden Visa initiatives.
That's it.
There's been quite a number of right initiatives in the right direction. So.
Good time for a question. How do you think the aviation industry is contributing to Dubai's future
And Dubai's
in the
real
next
estate as
20
well. Yeah.
years, especially because Dubai is building a lot in that sort of
Yeah.
the Maktoum Airport. Dubai
It's
South,
crazy
Dubai
expanding.
South.
Yeah. The whole real estate is happening. Oh my God, yes.
There as well. How
Sure.
do you-
Yeah. My boss also keeps telling me that.
Uh-huh. Continue the show, no problem.
My boss also always tells me, right? So the owner of our Global Academy Airways Aviation, Mr. Romy Hawat, very famous guy.
Curious, what's his nationality?
Australian.
Okay.
Nationality, I mean, he's got 4 passports, right? So
Ooh.
he's got a number of nationalities. But yeah, originally Australian, born and brought up in Australia. Now, he always tells me, right? So I look up to this guy, right? Romy Hawat. I mean, over the last 9 years, I've learned a lot from him, obviously. And he's
I'm
my
also
ideal.
curious, sorry, how old is he? Approximately.
60, I would
Wow.
say 59 or 60, I
Wow,
would say.
okay.
Yeah. And he is obviously someone who knows a lot about the real estate. He has his real estate empire in Australia, and
I'm sure.
and he's got several properties in Dubai. He's got several properties in the UK, and I think I've learned a lot from him, right? So he's an aviator himself. He's a helicopter pilot. He runs this global organization, Airways Aviation Academy Global, with 7 locations.
Yes, 7 branches, man.
Right,
It's
so
not a
several in
joke.
Europe. And now what I've realized from him is, there's certain things he said over the last few years, which today I think, and I'm like, wow, this guy had a vision. I mean, he knew,
For sure.
even in the pandemic, he would say these things about the real estate industry. So I remember this was the early 2021, Jan of 2021, I believe. And Dubai real estate had a lot of negative media, obviously, right? So everybody was like scared, oh, blah, blah, blah. And I remember he invested in a large number of properties in Jan of 2021. And even I myself was in the office and I was like, why are you doing that? I spoke to his accountant saying, dude, what a weird thing. Why would he buy properties right now? It's Jan of 2021. He had a vision. So I think what I'm trying to tell you is that real estate will never disappoint you.
Yes. And one saying I've heard from a lot of big investors in the real estate industry is they live by it, which is buy when there is blood on the streets. And it's a saying by some popular guy, I'm sure. But that line is difficult to act on when in the situation. But if you've got big enough, that's the time to go in, usually.
Sure.
And that is what your company owner did. And
Yeah.
today, I think he's having a good time,
Yeah,
sitting in the
definitely.
Bahamas, maybe somewhere.
No, he's a very
I know,
hardworking
I
guy, right? So
know.
I think sometimes I look at him and I'm like, he's 59, 60, and he works more harder than anybody I know in the office.
Wow.
He's always working. But
Yeah.
anyways, he's definitely not the guy who's spending his time in Bahamas. He's in and out of the office, running. And I think,
Amazing.
anyways. But the point is, he also said something about the aviation industry in the middle of the pandemic. He said very similar things about the real estate industry. And today I see that happening,
What was it that he said?
He pretty much said about the aviation industry that this is something we've seen happen over the last 40, 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a tiny little dent in an ever-growing graph. So
Tiny dent creating an
it's a tiny little
opportunity.
dent in a graph which is gonna keep growing
Shoot.
forever. So now when you look at it, when I look at the IATA graph, the International Aviation graphs, the 2019 graph and now, it's just a tiny little blip, and it's again every 15 years the aviation industry has doubled. And I have to tell you what my boss would always say. He said Dubai city was built on aviation. There's a reason why I believe there's a huge connection between aviation and real estate in Dubai, because if you removed the Dubai airports in the UAE, that would be a huge loss for the country.
For sure.
The way I see it is, the aviation industry was, I think, a major player in Dubai's real estate. Would you agree with that statement?
For sure. For sure.
Because if you think about it, all that little attraction in the aviation industry, and Emirates had a huge role to play as well, and it brought people in. I mean, it literally brought people from all over the world, creating an aviation hub. But that
Plus-
also helped the real estate industry.
Plus, even Emirates came in as a game changer for the aviation
Sure.
industry. But that's what changed everything, and then now everyone's following that
Sure.
same concept.
Sure.
And this is what also attracts more people to come in. Plus, the aviation industry is so well connected, especially here
Exactly.
with so many airports, so many flights flying out, and Emirates really, really pushing it so hard.
Yeah, definitely. And now with the recent expansion plans, have you heard about the recent DWC airport expansion plans?
No, please tell us.
So literally, the DWC airport is going to become a major aviation hub, not only just in the GCC region, but for the entire Asian continent. We'll always continue to have our lovely favorite DXB airport in Deira, right? But we will have our Dubai South airport. I think it'll expand more than 3 times, and there's a huge community being built around it.
Yes, I've seen it.
There's this entire real estate coming up.
Mhm.
So I think you probably know more about the real estate side of it.
I don't want to focus too much on the real estate. Today's focus is on you. But I have a question.
But think about this.
Mhm.
That real estate industry which will be built around the DWC airport
Mhm.
will completely be funneled by the aviation industry.
For
So the way I see it is Dubai, real estate and aviation
Work together.
work together.
Hand in
The
hand.
reason we're doing this together today, the way I see it is there's a huge connection between our industries, and there's a lot of overlapping as well.
Interesting. The question and the topic that has been brought up many times in the past few years is Emirates ever going to move from T3 to DWC? What's your opinion?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so.
Right.
I've spoken to a lot of my friends. I've been in air shows.
Mhm.
I've been part of some big meetings. And what I understand is Emirates will always stay at the DXB airport. They do have plans to start, pushing other airlines to the DWC airport, the
Mhm.
Dubai South airport. But I think the DXB airport will continue to be Emirates' hub. I've even heard, I'm not very sure, but I've even heard last year that Emirates and Fly Dubai will continue to fly from DXB,
From T3?
from T3, and then pretty much the whole, not just T3, but the whole
'Cause-
of DXB airport.
Because
will pretty
currently
much-
they're also doing the airport next to Davza, right?
Sure, yes. So that's the Dubai South airport, right? So the DXB downtown airport will eventually become only Emirates and Fly Dubai, and most of the non-UAE carriers will be operating from the Dubai South airport. Now, there's already lots of airlines who are landing at the DWC airport. I love the airport. It's nice. It's ample parking space.
Oh, yeah,
It's beautiful. I've traveled from the DWC airport
Mhm.
a couple of times, and I love it. And I think eventually what they'll do is they'll connect the DXB and the DWC airport with the full fast metros, and there's a big plan. But
Of course.
I think
of course.
Dubai is expanding towards the south.
Mhm.
That's what I understand from an aviation point of view. And I believe the south of Dubai, the entire aviation city. So the air show in 2021, November, featured this massive 3D plan. And I was amazed. The DWC airport was in the center, and there was an entire city around it.
Wow.
Fully functional, lots of malls and buildings. So I see that side of Dubai to be the next happening place over the next
Interesting.
10 years.
Interesting. Now I have one more question on this same topic. Now I've got Terminal 3,
Mm-hmm.
that is currently EK,
Mm-hmm.
which is your Emirates.
Mm-hmm.
You have Terminal 2, which is next to your Dubai airport free zone, which is somewhere in the middle of Gises and Garhoud, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's your Davza airport, which is your T2.
Mm-hmm.
You also have DWC, which we discussed in detail.
Mm-hmm.
Any other airports I'm missing in Dubai?
In Dubai,
No,
for
right?
commercial operations,
Right.
these are the
Oh no,
only
we have
two.
Terminal 1 as well.
So Terminal 1, 2, and 3 would all three be considered as the
Correct.
DXB airport. So
Correct.
that would be considered as one airport with 3 terminals. So commercially, I would say Dubai has 2 airports, the downtown DXB and the Dubai South DWC.
But that's for you because you come from the industry. A layman like myself still considers T1 as a different airport.
Ah, okay.
Right? Because every time I'm like, okay, you know what? My flight is not Emirates. I need to go to Terminal 1 or Terminal 2 or Terminal 3. Even though from behind, they're pretty much all connected.
They're pretty much the same
Correct.
airport. It's just 3 different entrances.
Correct. I know. But that's what you realize that when you've lived here for a few years and you see that, oh, that's Terminal 1 there. Oh, look, Terminal 2 is right there.
Correct.
You eventually get it. But for a layman who comes in,
Sure.
he's like, oh, that's another terminal or another airport.
I completely agree with
What happens to the Terminal 2
that. Mm-hmm.
and Terminal 1?
I believe they just become, so if Emirates and Fly Dubai is operating from that airport, the way I see it is they just renovate the place and expand into it. It just becomes one big airport. Or they might still have the same Terminal 1 and 2, but they would be up to Emirates standards and they would just fix the place. And then eventually, this is again, a decade plan.
Of course.
But the way I see it is, Dubai knows how to do these things. They'll probably just bring them all up to the highest standards and have EK operating from all 3 terminals.
Do you think
Because the expansion, the number of aircrafts which have been ordered, the Emirates has placed hundreds of new aircraft orders. So to accommodate all of that, I think T3 will not be enough. They'll need the T3, T2, T1.
Man, I
They'll
was
need-
hoping that they'd tear them down because that's hot real estate spots.
I think they'll continue to keep it under the airport, and
Because Garhoud by itself
Mhm.
is such a hot location.
that's true.
You sit on the border of Sharjah.
I agree. But I think the aviation is expanding at such unbelievable rate that they'll need more space.
Because literally, Terminal 1 sits inside the city. The door
true.
to the airport sits
That's
in the
true.
middle of the Dubai and Sharjah.
That's true.
That's
true.
that location is where the entire world travels back and forth from.
That's true.
Imagine if they tore that down and put up some assets over there. Like,
I agree there are some benefits, but I think if you look at the other side, there's billions of
I know.
dollars being made in the
Revenue
aviation
generated,
industry,
yeah,
and
for
then
sure.
to accommodate all the extra aircrafts, they'll probably keep that.
Interesting. I was really impressed by that massive swimming pool
Yes.
that you showed me with the whole waves and I don't know, the helicopter landing thing where you can pick up the people
Yes.
like Lego or something like that. I was amazed.
So
I've
that's
never
the
seen anything like this.
survival room, right? So we call it
Yeah.
the survival pool. So we try to teach not just pilots, the cabin crews, but all other aviation crew members what happens when you, in an unfortunate situation, if you had to do ditching and if you had to land in the water, how do you survive? How do you open those life rafts? How do you carry other passengers to safety? It's not just about surviving. It's not just about saving yourself. It's about making sure that everybody else on the aircraft is brought to safety. So yes, those survival pools are quite crazy. I was quite scared myself when I first jumped into it, and it is a scary thing, but you need to be prepared, not just to save yourself, but to help everybody else. The wave pools can create a thunderstorm effect. We can throw, thousands of gallons of water every few minutes and basically create lightning, throw some smoke in, and literally make it feel like day or night or a thunderstorm scenario. And then we expect you to swim and go
Assist
to
people as well?
Yeah, and then jump into the life rafts basically.
Wow. I'm sure it must be taking a lot of work. to
Right.
get
The
that
first time you do
right.
it is, but then once you do it a few times, but then again, all the pilots and the cabin crew, they're doing this course, which is the Safety Equipment Procedures Training, SEP course as we call it. They do this every year. So you can be comfortable knowing the fact that your pilots, your instructors, or your cabin crew, people who are on the aircraft with you, are well trained.
Of course.
And you can feel satisfied that they've done this every year, and it's not something they did 10 years ago and they've forgotten about it. They do this every year and they renew their skills. So you're in safe hands.
That I know for sure. Do they look forward to it? Especially that part of the training.
No, not really. I think it's challenging because for us it's an exam, right? So as a student, when you're renewing your licenses every year, when you're doing recurrency training every year, you're a bit nervous because it's an exam at the end of the day. You have to perform and you have to,
It relies on...
Exactly.
I mean, that performance is what takes you up a notch or not.
Exactly. But after doing it a few times, it obviously becomes a little bit more easier. But it's always an exam for...
What does a few times look like? 10, 20, 5?
So I would so every time you do the course, you're doing it a few times, 3-4 times, right? So, and if you're renewing your recurrencies every year, it's a few times every year, but that's good enough as per the civil aviation standards.
Is that mandatory for the pilots and
Definitely. So
cabin
there's a
crew?
lot of things which are mandatory, mandated by the civil aviation authorities of every country. So wherever you're flying, you have to follow those countries' regulations. So, for example, the UAE is known to have some of the best aviation standards, obviously,
sure.
just like any other
They're the ones who
department.
set the standards.
In this region, yes, definitely. I think they were the pioneers and, they got the things right, and the safety standards are very, very high. So we just follow those protocols and make sure that every staff member, not just pilots, but cabin crew and most of the other guys who work on an aircraft, they're all up to the same standards.
Does every single airline across the globe do this kind of training or no?
I can't speak for every airline.
We're not naming anyone.
No,
It's
not
just in
every
general.
airline does the
It's a
same
regular
standards of
question, yeah.
training. Obviously, that's why some airlines are much better and much more recommended.
Up to mark.
Up to mark. I mean, what we do in the UAE is some of the highest standards.
Of course.
The
Without a
facility,
doubt.
you've seen our facility in
Oh,
the
man, I
the
loved
DWC
it.
airport. I don't think so there's any other facility like that around the world, the ones we have in Dubai. So obviously the airlines who do the training here in the UAE, their standards of training is obviously a lot more higher.
I did not know a facility like this existed until you invited me. So thank you for that.
My pleasure.
I was blown away. I was impressed. I was like, wow, not a lot of things impress me that much, but when I saw that, I was like, holy shit, I don't think I can come here for training.
Definitely. I mean, the facility we have for cabin crew training in the DWC airport is one of its kind.
I even saw the room where you put the pilots and the people under a lot of pressure when it comes to breathing to make sure that they can learn to control their breathing patterns so they don't freak out or
There's
faint and all that.
hypoxia room, right?
Yes,
So
that was amazing.
So for the listeners, I mean, if you're not sure what hypoxia is when you don't have the right amount of oxygen in your
Correct.
blood. So our body is very unique, right?
Mm-hmm.
God has created us in such a way that there needs to be a balance of oxygen and carbon dioxide. We all say, oh, oxygen is great, carbon dioxide is bad. But guess what? If you have too much of oxygen, it's bad. If you have too much of carbon dioxide, it's bad. So it needs to be at the right balance. Hypoxia is when you have too much of carbon dioxide and less of oxygen in your blood. And there's something, the opposite of hypoxia, hyperventilation.
Freaking out.
By doing that, I have a huge intake of oxygen going inside my body. This is hyperventilation. So if my oxygen levels are higher than required, that means my carbon dioxide is much lower, bad. Too much of oxygen, very bad. Too much of carbon dioxide, very bad. So there needs to be a balance. So we put you in this hypoxia room where we reduce your oxygen levels and try to see how well you perform. And you know your limitations at the end of that experiment.
I have a question.
Sure.
Sometimes, I know as individuals, as human beings, we like to mess around a little bit. The person who controls the in and out of the oxygen and the carbon dioxide, does he ever get tempted to play with that person
So
who's
there's
on
some
the
safety,
side?
there's some safety.
Of course, with guidelines, making sure the guy doesn't fail.
Sure. We can push it to the limit where a person can pass out, but obviously
Of course
there
not.
are some safety mechanisms in place which will kick in. You might experience dizziness, you might experience the symptoms of passing out, but we won't let you go all the way into a position where you've completely passed out. But for fun, I can do it. I mean, between me and the instructors or the staff members, yeah. We
If
can
I'm able
push
to
it.
come in the next time, I want to try it.
Sure.
Go crazy. I'll let you do that. I'll sign a form. Yeah.
Sure, we'll take it up a notch a little bit.
Why
Yeah,
not?
sure, definitely we'll do that.
Why not? Awesome. Anything else you want to bring up?
Yes, I want
Please.
to bring up one of my recent travels, right?
Mhm.
So, as you know, I work for the academy. I get thrown into different departments, and recently I was thrown into the hiring position, right? So it was
Thank
the
you for
first time.
highlighting that. Yeah.
It was the first time I was entrusted by my academy to go hire a bunch of people in our
Uh-huh.
newest branch in Hyderabad. So we're
Right.
trying to create a small little office where we do some courses. We're not going to do lots of training in Hyderabad, India, but we want to start doing some soft introduction to aviation, our legal representative office, our admissions and selection tests. I was there to hire an instructor, but then I was also told to hire a couple of admin staff, and I interviewed more than 20, 25 people. And I've realized that I know I might be touching a red button here, but this is something which needs to be addressed. I realized that there are quite a number of jobs out there, even in your home country. I'm from Bangalore, and I was in Hyderabad. There's a lot of jobs out there, and I had people who were at the other side of the table, and I was interviewing them, and I'm like, "Where do you work?" "Such and such place." "All right. How long have you been working there?" "It's been a month and a half." And I'm like, "Oh wow." And you're here interviewing for
That's
this
a
new
quick
job.
swap.
And I'm like, "Any major problems at your current job?" "No, not really." I'm like, okay, wow. So that kind of makes me feel like, wait, I'm going to hire you today.
And you're
A month later,
you're
you
in
might
another
be,
shop.
you might be. And I was like, but why are you here? "No, I want to know what are you offering." So I was like, wow, the mindset. I think that's something I want to talk about.
Let's do it.
Because
Yeah.
I was a little bit bothered during
For
the
sure.
interview, and because it's my first time interviewing a lot of people, I found a lot of people who were in this category who did have a job, were just looking around for something a little bit more extra. And I felt like I worked for this company for 9 years, and I think I come
sure.
from a very loyal background. My father worked for a company for almost 2 decades, and I think you should give the company a fair chance. Hopping every 2 months, 3 months, I think it's not a right thing to do, I would say. What is your opinion about that?
I think it's just like an employee mindset at the end of the day. I don't know how it is in the aviation industry, but in real estate, there are two types of people that run the show. One is your employer mindset, and one is your leader mindset. You can have that person with the employer mindset, and your team becomes the employee mindset. And then you have the leader mindset where you say that, boss, we are all a team, we work together, and your contribution is as good as my contribution. Fine, I might bring a little more to the table, but that's what I get paid a little more for, or what I earn for myself. In my industry happens the same way. A lot of people that come into the show and they have that employee mindset, and they'll call their owners boss, or sir and mister and this and that. I'm like, why? What I understand is we're all adults. We can all address each other by our names. It's totally
Sure.
all right. You don't need to
Sure.
have that boss. Fine, I understand certain industries demand it.
Sure.
You follow the guidelines. My industry doesn't. My industry, the more sophisticated, the more polished my people are, the more they can address people by the same name, by their first name. And they don't need to call a client Mr. or Sir, depending on the individual, of course, and how their mindset works. And I tell them, I'm like, listen, you and I are 50-50 partners.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Whatever
Makes
you
sense.
earn, we split. Whatever you earn, we split it, right? We provide the platform, your support, whatever it is you need. And of course, whatever business is sent towards your way, your job is to make sure it's done.
Correct.
That's how the business works in a partnership with a leader mindset.
Correct.
But you know what you said, people just have that employee mindset set in their brain. It's like drilled in for years and years and years. And
I agree with you.
And I think that is what the reason why these people keep hopping and jumping places.
Yeah, and some of the other things I've also noticed, I was told, and I have seen people from our background, from our home country, from India and most of the Asian countries, really hardworking in the UAE, and they've made a good name for themselves that, but I don't see the same level of commitment when the same Indian person is working from his city back home. I feel like there's a lot of jobs out there as well.
There's a lot.
But I saw a lot of people who didn't show up. I gave them appointment letters. I was based in Hyderabad. I hired them, did 2-3 rounds of interview, gave them the letter of acceptance, matched their expectations for the salaries, whatever. I mean, we had a smaller budget. They said, no, this is the minimum. Okay, fine. We meet your demands. And then 2 days later, they don't show up, or they work for a day and then they just suddenly vanish. And that's what I felt a little bit weird about. I don't see that happening in the UAE. The same people, they come to the UAE or, the GCC region, and they work very hard. I don't know, maybe they have the sense of commitment, and I think it's good that you're doing that in the UAE, but I think you should do the same back home in your country as well. Respect your job the same way you respect your job here. Do you see what I mean?
I think as an Indian myself, and I really feel bad saying this about my own country where I was born, it's just the mentality over there is different. There it's more chilled out. Things are taken for granted. It is okay if I don't show up. Whatever happens, we'll see. You have plants growing out of buildings. No one gives a shit.
Exactly.
Asked my friend, I'm like, when did you last service your car? Bro, if it doesn't break down, why should I service it?
Exactly.
It's that mentality.
It's
But
that
the second you
mentality.
come here, there's a drive.
It changes.
Everyone is throttle on the full throttle pedal to the metal,
Yeah.
like either you perform or go back home.
That's amazing about the UAE. I know people who would go back on, they're on vacations, they're visiting their home country for a month, and they would buy something, open the chocolate, throw the wrapper out on the streets.
Yes.
They come back, they won't do the same
will
here.
not do that
I'm
here.
happy. I'm happy they don't do that here. But I feel like learn good habits. When you're traveling to another country, apply the same habits.
I know.
I think that's the basics. I hate when I see people just throwing something on the streets. You wouldn't dare do that in this country. Great, I'm really happy for that. But also apply the same when you go back home to your own country.
Things are taken for granted.
Things are taken
Because
for
no one's
granted.
going to say anything.
Exactly.
When we go back to India as well, it just, I don't know, for some reason it kicks into me as well. That, you know what, I can just throw this plastic bottle outside, but I'm like, you know what, wait, I could just leave it in my car for now.
Exactly.
Second I reach my place, my driver will take it out and throw it in the bin. It's all good.
It's not a big deal, or it's not a big effort. It's a small thing.
But I guess it's just that mindset changes
yeah.
completely when you go there, because
Exactly.
you're surrounded by people with that kind of mindset. Even my driver will be like about to throw a wrapper out. I'm like, whoa, bro, just keep it in the dashboard.
Exactly.
Take it out later.
I think the moral of the story is I would request people to actually learn these good habits. UAE has given us this amazing opportunity to actually see how amazing a country can be run. And I think we need to all copy this and go back and apply this formula to wherever we
sure.
are from.
For sure.
There's no point of living in Dubai for 15, 20 years, and if you eventually go back, retire in your home country, and you just go back to your old methods, then there was no use of you exploring the world, learning new ideas, and you see the level of harmony and like the peace and sense of security. I mean, everything from religious harmony to, cultural differences. We have 200 plus nationalities,
Thank
and
you
we
for
have
bringing that up.
the most amazing. Like, I could be talking to anyone. I could have people from different culture, different background, different race, different religions on this desk in Dubai, and I would have no problems with anyone. Why would you not want to apply the same when you go back to your own
For
home
sure.
country?
For sure.
This is something I think everyone should be, learning and applying.
I think it's just about changing the mindset. But hey, I'm glad I'm here. I'm sure you are too.
Yes.
And this is, of course, our city. So thank you very much. Rizwan bhai, before we end the show, I just want to know where and how can people find you on the various platforms? Do you have a handle that you could share with us?
Sure. So I'm quite active on Instagram.
I've seen
Pilot
that.
_ Rizwan Taj.
Okay.
That's probably the best place. I make a lot of informative, educational videos. Actually, my wife, my social media manager, she just walks into my classroom when I'm actually teaching with my students, and she does these 1-minute snippets. How does the plane fly? How does the engines work? How does the cockpit instruments work? How does the wing create lift? So I think my Instagram would be the best channel. I do have a YouTube channel as well. I haven't been focusing too much on it, but I do have a few good videos on my YouTube as well. But the best place is Instagram, Pilot _ Rizwan Taj.
Pilot _ Rizwan Taj. Awesome. Rizwan bhai, it was
Thank
a
you for
pleasure
having me.
having you here. and I am looking forward to our next appointment
Definitely.
at the same place. Just don't pop me in the pool because I don't think I would survive. Thank you very much.
Thank
I
you so much
appreciate
for
your
having
time,
me.
bro.
I should say you guys have an amazing setup. You guys have been
Thank
doing
you.
amazing. I have been following you for more than a year now, and I think
I appreciate
the only
that.
reason I've continued to follow you, and I'm not someone from the real estate industry, but I think something about your reel, something about the way you speak. Keep it up,
Thank you.
and thank you so much for having
I
me.
have a no bullshit policy.
No, that's whatever you're doing.
No,
it's
but
working.
whatever is
Thank
done
you.
in the studio, of course, it's thanks to my partner here, Asad. So he's
Great
the
job, Asad.
creative mind behind it. I don't know what I would have done with the place. I don't think not even half as much as this one, but I'm loving it so far, and I'm glad that I can get people like yourselves in here.
It's always an
So
honor.
thank you for dropping
Thank you
it.
so
I
much.
appreciate.
Once again, thank you.
Habibi. Pleasure.
Thanks, sir.